Many big cities across the world are experiencing housing challenges that affect the daily lives of residents. The neighborhood of Weston in the northwest of Toronto is no exception. Weston is a vibrant community. It has heritage and new growth and transit. But is something missing? Will the community's next generation be able to capture opportunities in the same place where their families made a home? While house prices have gone up and up, housing choices have dried up. In Weston, like in much of Toronto and Canada, sometimes it seems like there are only two options: expensive McMansions or high-rise tower living. But there are actually a variety of housing options that can fulfill the needs of Weston's residents. Around Weston today, you'd see a mix of housing types, including single-family, duplexes, basement conversions, and small apartments. These housing types were fully legal decades ago, but were phased out in favor of single-family homes and high-rises. The city and province, though, have recently supported them for both renovations and new construction. These types of housing are known as the missing middle, which includes units ranging from basement to garden suites to multiplexes to low-rise apartment buildings. These kinds of housing units could bridge the gap in the housing stock, expanding options for the varying needs of Toronto's diverse population. The status quo approach to housing has left many people entirely out of the conversation.
Historically, we've been planning without women in mind, without lower-income people in mind, and without immigrants in mind.
We're seeing rents go up in Weston higher than we've ever seen them before. We're seeing tenants being pushed out of their apartments. We have a great divide, so we have a lot of houses that are single-family detached, and then we have a lot of towers, and there isn't really anything in the middle.
It doesn't often meet the needs of large families, families with multiple children, households that have multiple generations. There's overcrowding, and people have to, share bedrooms, or some children have to. Some children or parents have to sleep in the living room or on the couches. The sizes of units available and the amount of units available to the population doesn't correlate.
So missing middle housing, more housing options just mean that more people have access to safe and secure housing, which is inherently better for society, better for people, better for health outcomes, better for community.
From my experience and from people in the community's experience, it's important to have safe and affordable housing. It affects your mental health. It affects your children's mental health. It affects their behavior, a sense of security. If there's a breakdown of a relationship or an illness, you have your supports and you have your familiarity of staying in the area. To displace someone when they're going through a hard time is even harder for people to get back on their feet.
Right now, 30% of families in Weston are led by single-parent women. For single-parent women to be able to have access to affordable housing in single-detached neighborhoods, we need more than just housing forms. We need community by our side.
Myself as a young person, youngish person, and someone who, is a tenant, I know that single family household is completely unattainable for me. I know that I'm actually never going to have the money to be able to put down a down payment and pay that mortgage off within my lifetime.
A different landscape of housing would allow a lot of youth to, gain some independence and be able to go out on their own and start a life of their own and be in a more comfortable environment so they can, study or do their post-secondary without, younger brothers and sisters running around or, multiple people in the house, disturbing them and stuff like that. And there's also a lot of racism in housing and a lot of landlords don't want to rent to young people or young Black youth. So that's another barrier that they face. And then they're forced to stay at home longer than they should, and it can cause some family breakdowns. It can cause tensions in family and stresses and stuff like that. Backyard suites, the alleyway suites, they're nice now. Like before, you would think, okay, it's like on top of a garage, it's going to be dingy, but now they're like lofts, and small homes are in, and so they could be a very good option for young families, or someone who's going through a challenge in life to get back on their feet.
More housing options means more people, more types of people, more engagement of people, and a better function community.
Garden suites and stacked townhouses and laneway suites would be an option for a lot of people. These new options for housing would be a great stepping stone for people to get to the next level of safe, secure, stable housing.
When you're looking at missing middle, you're looking at housing that's actually diversifying who's owning land too.
It allows people who are existing homeowners to kind of tap into that market potential, create that wealth and that economic boom from the real estate market by investing in their own property. And then it also helps with kind of continuity of that long-term generational piece where, kids can grow up and stay here.
When I was a master's, it was my first time living in Toronto, and I found it really difficult to find affordable housing as a student, and that's why I decided to do what I did. My name is Misan, and I live in a semi-detached triplex. I took all my savings that I was planning to use for my tuition and living expenses and decided instead to turn it into this kind of investment. I live in the basement of the triplex. I'm currently doing my grad studies, so that makes sense. On the second floor, ground level, my mother lives there with a student. And in the top floor, there's a Colombian family. The great thing about living in the triplex is that we all have our own private spaces. So I really would encourage others to think about sort of living spaces in creative ways. Cheers.
So right now we're in a really incredible and exciting time where these detached and single detached neighborhoods are being looked at and thought of as opportunities to actually address this exclusion that's happened by including affordable housing options such as duplexes, fourplexes, and four-story walk-ups.
My name is Sarah.
And I'm Toye. So the two projects that we're looking to pursue to increase the densification in Weston, the duplexing of the property that we live in right now, which will enable us to have a larger home and as well offer another home to another family before eventually moving on to where we'd like to stay permanently in the Weston area. And that's a property which is a little bit larger and would give us the opportunity to not only add a basement suite, but also add a garden suite. It really comes down to finding a way to meet our needs as well as support the community. So for us, having an additional unit would help offset the cost of building a bigger unit for ourselves. And we also see the benefit in terms of providing more housing options in the city.
If everybody did what we are hoping to do, that would increase density gently over the entire neighborhood and benefit even more people.
Is the current housing in Weston meeting the community's needs? No, but it can be, and I think there are changes coming that really can start shifting housing away from being really profit-driven and being more community-driven, more people-driven, and more driven by the right to housing as opposed to big profits.
There's a lot of broken systems. There's a lot of systems that are trying to connect that haven't connected to offer housing for people and better housing solutions. And people in the area are tired. They want help, but they're also tired.
I know that a lot of people have a problem with change and the feeling of loss of some autonomy in that, or change happening in your neighborhood.
The community doesn't want to see change. I mean, they appreciate the transit, but they don't want to see change. I think they're afraid of change. And so you have to go step by step.
It would be a change that people aren't used to, but I think getting over that barrier would involve kind of communicating the wider benefits.
Everything is contentious at the beginning because nobody wants things to change, but If you think back, bigger picture and think about Weston 100 years ago and 100 years from now, missing middle is really the answer to making sure that everybody can live here and stay here and continue to build this great community.
What I would love to see in Weston, what I think could be a massive opportunity for community-based housing solutions in Weston, is allowing that missing middle to be developed by community land trusts, to be developed by nonprofit housing providers.
Where people can pull together their resources and lay claim to this opportunity to really meet their family's needs in a way that is secure for them and for their future.
Just getting together with your neighbors and envisioning and proposing an alternative is a powerful act and a powerful tool in and of itself.
Are you interested in exploring or pursuing the development of affordable housing through the missing middle? If so, I strongly encourage you to talk to your neighbors. Get talking, host a meeting in the park, discuss what are the assets in the neighborhood, what are the resources, what are the barriers, what do we need to make affordable housing in the missing middle a reality?
When I think about missing middle, I think about it as an opportunity for communities to come together and build exactly the kind of housing for community, for people, for neighbors, and for each other. Coming together and just agreeing everyone deserves to live in the city. We all have a place here, and creating the housing to keep that place for everyone here can be something that can bring many generations and many cultures together.